What's going on, everybody? This is Donovan with High Off Blue Hour, and we are going to be taking a hopefully quick look at Transform in Davinci Resolve. So we've got Davinci Resolve open here and just got I got one video clip and a couple PNG images that we're going to be using to just kind of take a look at using Transform in Davinci Resolve. All right, so let's bring in something here. We'll just bring in an image, a PNG. We're going to bring in this unofficial image of Thor. I got it out of Midjourney and just remove the background. So Transform. What is Transform? I always break down Transform with two words, size and positioning. That's basically what you're affecting when you utilize the transform, the different methods of using the transform option, right? So, and there's two main ways of accessing and manipulating transform. And one of them is over here in the inspector tab. And that is once you have your object in the timeline, you got it highlighted, you're going to come over here and you're in the inspector tab, and transform is already just an option. It's already highlighted. So it's almost it's already assumed that transform is going to be used in one form or fashion if you're going to work on a project. And that's kind of generally the case if I really think about it, or maybe that might just be me. But anyway, so transform is already highlighted. And you can manipulate it. One way of manipulating it is coming into this box that says zoom. And what does that do? It speaks for itself. You can zoom in and out, or basically make the object or your subject smaller or larger. You have position. You can go side to side on the lateral, the x-axis. You can come over here and go up and down on that y-axis, and then you can come up here, and again you're kind of moving in and out of, coming forward and further away from the camera and closer to the camera. You come down here and you have your rotation angle, which again, a lot of these things speak for themselves in terms of what they control. And as you slide the slider, you can see your figure or your subject, your image will rotate. And then you have your anchor point here. And anchor point is one of those things that I typically never really do anything with it, but you can change that. And it's one of those things that it's more useful with this other way of using transform than it is in terms of in the inspector tab. So I'm actually going to go ahead and reset it back to what it was, and maybe we'll talk about anchor point when we look at this second way of using the transform option. But let's skip past that and go down here to where it says pitch, and this is that in motion. It kind of changes. It kind of makes your image again pitch forward or back. So in a warped kind of way, like you go this way, it kind of looks like Thor is leaning backwards. Come back this way, it kind of looks like Thor is in a warped kind of way leaning forward, right? Let's reset that back to where it was. And then you have yaw, I'm assuming is how the term is pronounced. And this is kind of like pitch, except instead of moving in a kind of more of an up and down vertical type way, you're moving in more of a horizontal fashion. So kind of the same idea in terms of leaning forward and leaning back, or tilting forward and tilting back, I should say. But this is yaw. And I'm going to go ahead and reset that. And then you have your flip options. And this comes in handy quite a bit when you have an image that maybe, you'd prefer if the image was facing a certain other direction. A lot of times I might have a PNG image that I'm trying to incorporate into an edit, but the character is facing the wrong way. Well, a quick, easy way to remedy that is to just hit the flip. And this is the horizontal flip. So if your character is, facing forward when you want them facing backwards or whatever, you can just do the horizontal flip. Or you can do the kind of vertical flip or the upside down type flip, where if you want to roll the character over top side, you would do that. And so the horizontal one comes in handy all the time for me. I don't use the vertical one too often, but the horizontal one I use quite a bit. So that is transform. And further down in this inspector tab, you have things like cropping, dynamic zoom. I actually have a video on dynamic zoom. You have composite, speed change, all those type of things. We're just focusing on transform, so we won't worry about all that other stuff. But what is the other way of using the transform option? So we're going to bring in another image to take a look at that other way, simply for the purpose of just different visuals. It has nothing to do with functionality. This is just to have a different visual. So all right, so we got, this is a unofficial blade right here, once again out of Midjourney. So the other way of using transform is you have this button right here. You want to click this arrow and you select transform. Now you can also just click the button, since transform is at the very top, so that will naturally be selected if you turn this on. But you also, if transform wasn't at the very top, say for instance open effects overlay was at the top or something, you'd want to click this arrow and come down and select transform, this rectangular box with the 4 points at each corner. And so boom, now we have our image selected, but we're gonna basically do the same thing we just did in the inspector tab, manipulating our image through transform. We're gonna do all of that, except we're gonna do this visually on screen using this box and the different points around the box and the singular point within the box. So obviously you can do some resizing, which pretty much functions the same as your zoom option. Now you'll see this is another thing. This is similar to in my Power Windows video, which I just recently recorded, so I don't know if it's even on the channel at the time of this video. But in my Power Windows video, I talk about kind of a similar thing where your on-screen manipulations, when you grab the different points and start to drag your image around, you can see your changes being made over here in the different transform boxes. So as I move this image, resizing it, you see the numbers changing in the zoom box in the inspector tab over there. And then likewise with positioning, if you want to just change the position, all you got to do is grab and hold within the box just about anywhere and just move your image or your character around, and you can see in the position box in the inspector tab the numbers changing because the position is changing. And then you have your rotation angle, which again, like I said, anything that you can do in this transform tab, pretty much you can do using this transform box that we have selected now. So rotation, if you want to rotate the character, what you would do is you have this stem coming up here. You'd grab this circular end right here, and then you get that circle. Once you grab and hold, that circle becomes visible, and that circle indicates your path in terms of rotation path. So now you can start to rotate, and your character or your image rotates as well. And then if you want to stretch the character out a little bit, like in terms of I guess this would be like an aspect ratio type thing, you can do that. I don't use that part too often when I'm manipulating things, but it is an option. It is an option for you. So that is the second way of using the transform tab. I'm gonna reset it back to things were. Typically I just do combinations of both. Sometimes it's much more simple to. And then also too, when you want to, if you don't want to use this anymore, to turn it off, all you do, you see how it's highlighted, just press it, now it's off, it's grayed out. So, and as I was saying, I typically use a combination of both. Sometimes I transform things by using the inspector tab and just clicking within the whatever parameter box I'm changing and just sliding the mouse around. For certain movements and certain just edits, that's more practical and just makes more sense. And then there's other times where it makes more sense to actually just have a box on the screen and move that around. And there's certain keyframing things. It's interesting with keyframing, sometimes it makes more sense to keyframe from the inspector tab, and then there's other times it makes more sense to keyframe using the actual transform box, which before I get out of here with this video, I should mention that although I already do have a video on keyframing, all of your transform movements and positionings and all of that type of stuff can be keyframed. So whatever you can do, whatever position you can get your image in within the transform parameters, those positions can be keyframed and kind of animated in. So, that's just, in case you want to look more into keyframing, or you don't know anything about keyframing in Resolve, I do have a video about that I will link at the end of this video. But this is the video. That's the video on transforming using the transform option in Davinci Resolve. I've always thought of it as a rather simple kind of option, a simple thing, but it's actually very kind of critical to just everyday basic operations with Davinci Resolve. We kind of use, if you use Resolve a lot, you use transform all the time. And so I kind of don't always think of it as being something I need to do a video about. But if we're talking about, things for beginners and kind of the very basics, the bare bones of Resolve, it makes all the sense in the world to talk about using the transform option. So I figured let me go ahead and talk about the transform option a little bit. So that is the video, you guys. Thank you for watching. Hopefully this helped you out a little bit. If you're a beginner, that's definitely who this video was for. So that's the transform tab, transform option, the two ways of using it, or at least the two best ways of using it in Davinci Resolve. Hopefully I will catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching.